All right, welcome to Tips for Tuesday. This week we're going to cover posterior chain strengthening. So check it out. Here's what we did the past couple of episodes. We talked about working on mobility and flexibility through the anterior posterior chain in the hips, right, to work on some potential low back pain that you might be experiencing or just tightness through the hips in the anterior posterior region. So now we're going to move from mobility to stability. All right, so what can we do to strengthen that posterior chain? And again, we talked about in the past video that in today's society we do a lot of sitting, predominantly sitting. So it's a lot of anterior chain flexion stuff, right? And so if we're in this kind of posture by the end of the day, that posterior chain is essentially sleeping, not working. All right, so what we want to work on when we come into the gym is how can we work on those posterior structures to put us back into an upright, good postural position. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about here in the big board before we get into the actual exercises is why. Why are we doing this? And there's what we call in the sports medicine PT world posterior chain firing pattern. All right, so there's a proper firing pattern of muscles that happens in a chain reaction. There's a right way and a wrong way. Okay, the right way looks like this. So number one, your hamstring should fire. Number two, your same side glute should fire. And then number three, your contralateral low back. Contralateral just means opposite side. All right, so it would look like something like this. So if hamstring is in blue, and again, I'm not an artist here. This is as close as I can get. This is kind of a wacky stick figure type of situation, but it'll work for our purposes. So our hamstring here, all right, so we're going to fire this number one, okay? Number two is going to be our glute, same side, all right? So this guy here. And then finally, number three should be contralateral or opposite side, low back muscle, quadratus lumborum, erector spinae. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And what we'll see in a lot of folks here that have improper posterior chain firing pattern is the glute is inhibited. All right, so it's not working. It's not working properly, or it's firing too late. So what we'll see is hamstring will be 1. Low back will be 2 to overcompensate for not firing that glute, and then finally we'll see the glute number 3 firing, if it does at all. All right. So if you have an inhibited glute, what you're going to see is hamstring go. Then because this guy is sleeping, you're going to see the low back compensate for that and do the work that the glute is supposed to be doing. All right. So what we want to do is, and folks, is retrain the glutes, or so to speak, wake them up. All right. So couple things we're going to do over here. All right, so what does that mean, firing pattern? All right, again, in the PT sports medicine world, what it looks like is this. If you're on the ground in a prone position, and if I say I would like you to raise one leg up off of the ground, when I raise this leg up off the ground, thigh comes off, it should be hamstring firing, glute firing, opposite side, low back. All right, and so in the PT sports medicine world, we'll put our hands in the hamstring, glute, and low back and make sure, and we'll physically feel that those muscles are firing in that pattern. And if they're not, you won't see that glute firing at all. Okay, what does that mean in the functional fitness world? How does that transfer into the functional fitness world? What that means is this. If I'm doing, let's say, a deadlift, right, from the ground, okay, so I'm in that deadlift position, as I bring the bar up, it should be hamstring, glute, contralateral, low back, bringing it up. If I'm here and this guy is sleeping, all right, it's going to be hamstring, and then the rest of it's going to be back. All right, so that's where we can see potential back injuries if the glute is not firing properly. All right, so bunch of exercises that we could do here. Here's the big board. Here's our objectives for today. We're going to go over some bridge progressions for you, show you some different ways to kind of peel that onion away and get down to the core of the bridge. Or the low back, and making sure that it's supported with the glutes. Then we're going to go into some other exercises here. If we get through these today, we'll get through them. If not, we'll cover them in another episode. When do we do these exercises? These exercises can be done on recovery days, so days where you're not doing any heavy lifting or heavy metabolic work. And you can also do it as supplementary work. So if I'm doing, say it's a pulling day, I'm doing some deadlift work. When you're done with your deads, you can work into some of these exercises, supplementary work. Or you can also use them as warm-up exercises as well, too, to get ready for that stuff. All right. So like on deadlifting day, sometimes we'll do some of this stuff in the warm-up so that we're waking up that posterior chain, so to speak. All right, so bridging. First thing we want to do, so bridging is going to be in a supine position. Then we're going to start with a straight leg bridge. We're going to get a foam roller, and it's going to look like this. Okay, so the higher the foam roller is up on the leg, the easier it is. We're just going to go mid-calf here. You're going to pull your knee to your chest. And from this position here, trying to keep this leg straight, you're just simply lifting up your hips as far as you can off of the ground as possible, and then back down. And I like to do about a 2-count hold at the top and about a 2-second lower, right? Now, as you start to do some reps, you'll start to see this knee creeping down, and it'll look like that, right? You want to keep that knee as close and hug it as close to your chest as you can for every rep, all right? So you do 8 to 12 reps, both sides. All right, we're going to kick that out of the way, and then we can go into a 2-legged bridge from the floor. So again, from this position here, I'm just coming up, squeezing glutes together, making sure they're activated. 2-second hold at the top, 2-second lower. Make sure your weight is through the center of your feet, so you're not on your ball of toes right there. Okay, and then we can go into a single leg bridge from here as well too. Okay, just a different way of doing it. All right, but now we're focusing on seeing if there's any right, left differences. So we call it asymmetrical difference, if one leg is stronger than the other or weaker than the other. All right, now another way we can do this, and one we commonly do here in the gym, is we'll use a slingshot band and we'll place it around the legs and just above the knees. And then we're coming out here like this. So what does this do? What this does is now, you know, when you're doing the hip bridge, you're working on gluteus maximus. All right, when I'm putting this band on here and the band wants to do this to my knees, I'm pushing it out here. Now I'm firing my glute medius TFL IT band, right? So I got my lateral hip stabilizers now activated. So I've got lateral hip stabilizers and my glutes working in this position right here. Okay, so this is a really good exercise for incorporating the entire posterior chain complex in the glutes. All right, another one we could do here with the slingshot, we can do a couple things we could do. So to work the glute medius, TFL, IT band, again, your lateral hip stabilizers is just straight leg raises like this, okay? 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down type of thing. Everything's going to be about 8 to 12 reps. Another thing we do is called the clamshell. You draw your feet in as close as you can to your butt, and you put your hand on your glute medius, so lateral hip, so you can feel it working, and you're just opening the hip up and closing it down. So your feet stay together, but your knees come apart. All right, nice and slow on that, and you'll see a real good burn, or feel a real good burn in the lateral hip. Okay, so that just means that we're waking up those muscles. All right, a couple other ways we can do it. So progression, so now we're going to add resistance to it, is a banded version of the supine hip press. So we're going to get a band attached to either side of our poles here. Put this right around your hip bones. Okay, and I get into my bridge position, and then from here, I'm pressing up, holding, bringing it back down nice and slow. Pressing up, so I got resistance with the band. So that's a resisted hip bridge. All right. Now some of you might be like, yeah, Mike, bands are cool, but barbells are way better. Got you covered. All right, what can we do with a barbell? All right, for you meatheads out there, there's a version with the barbell. We'll do this here in the gym. So we're just going to have a pad here to protect the hips. We're going to roll this right up. When I get into my hip bridge position, arms are out straight. So this is just resting on my hip bones. And then I'm pressing this up. 2 second hold, 2 second lower. Pressing up, bringing it down. All right, so that's the barbell version. Okay, so that's a couple hip bridge progressions. Last thing I want to show you actually is over here using a suspension trainer. So we got a TRX suspension trainer. A couple other ways we can do this. So we're going to get into that position on the back. Right, we can go straight leg bridge here. Right, we can go bent knees in. Okay, bridging here. So now, by being off of the ground this high, I got more range of motion in the hips. It's going to increase the difficulty of the exercise. Okay, another thing we could do here too is straight leg bridge, one-legged hamstring curls. So now I'm getting the hamstrings involved. Two-legged hamstring curls. We can combo it up and do hamstring curl, hip press, and down. Hamstring curl, hip press. All right, so that's kind of comboing up and really attacking all the muscles of the posterior chain. All right, so those are our bridge progressions. Oh, and if you don't have a TRX, right, you could just use a med ball for those same things. So bridging, I'm curling in with the med ball, right? I could do single leg. All right, so if you don't have a suspension trainer at your house, but you have a med ball, you're good. All right, quadruped position. So this is more of a stability piece right here. We're going to use Gray Cook's FMS board. You could just use a 2x4 at home if you want. You're going to get in the all-4 position. You're going to have your thumbs in contact with the board, chest over your hands, feet in contact with the board, knees in contact with the board. So this is a test first. All right, can you pick up opposite arm, opposite leg, come in like this, touch your elbow and your knee together, and then press it straight out so that your arm and leg are parallel to the ground. And can you do that for 3 consecutive repetitions without tipping over or losing those points of contact? All right. If you can, right, now you can work into a strengthening piece for the quadruped position. So we're going to take our core band here, and it's going to look like this, right? So I got my hands on the handles. I got one foot locked in. So I got left leg locked in. I'm going to move my right arm up, left leg up. So opposite arm, opposite leg, and then I come in. So now I went from the test to make sure I'm nice and stable, and now I'm working into a strength piece and attacking that posterior chain stability, right? 8 to 12 reps, and then I switch sides on that. Okay. Now, to get out of a seated or prone position, some other things that we could do is work on single leg stability and balance, right? So we got supine bridge progressions, check. Suspension progressions, check. Quadruped positions, check. All right. Single leg stuff, what does that look like? Okay, first another test. Can you take a PVC pipe, broomstick, stick, whatever you got at home, put it behind your back, and have a 3-point contact, all right? So head, middle of my back, hips. All right, I'm going to take my low hand, and I'm going to go into the small of my back. My opposite hand is going to, or my top hand is going to be right here at the top of the head. So this is my positioning, all right? If my left hand is high, I'm going to stand on my right leg. So can you maintain this and go down into this position here and maintain those 3 points of contact and then come back up? All right, can you do at least 3 repetitions of that? Or are you, real wobbly, right? That's going to be a significant issue. Another thing could be as you go down, you start to do this and you lose that 3-point contact. Those are all things you want to know. And you may notice that on your right leg, you're crushing it. Left leg, all of a sudden you're here and you're like, whoa, I don't have it, right? Then you know you have a right-left asymmetry, a difference. One leg is good, one leg isn't so good. So now take that into the deadlift world. If I'm here and I'm deadlifting heavy weight, I know now that my right side is doing a lot of work because my left side wasn't stable and strong to hold me in that single leg stance. So you want to address that before you go into some heavy work off of the ground, such as deadlifts. You want to make sure you're equal bilateral. Right, left side, if I cut you down the middle in half, both sides are equal. All right? Once you are, then I feel relatively safe that you can pull weight off of the ground. If you're not, I would be concerned that you're going to be suspect to injury. Okay? Now, let's make the assumption that you have that single leg stability and balance, right? Now you can train it strengthening-wise. So you can take a Russian kettlebell, and come down, pick it up 2 hands, hold it in 1 arm. So I have left arm kettlebell, right leg stance. So opposites, okay? Keep your shoulder packed in. We don't want to see that rounding forward. Okay, and then from this position here, you can do 2 things, 2 versions of this. More of a hip hinge version. So a Romanian deadlift, if you will, single leg Romanian deadlift. So I have slight flexion of the knee. but the rest of the motion is coming at the hip, and that kettlebell just travels a straight line down, kind of inside my instep. All right. You can then turn it into more of a knee dominant exercise as well too. So you can get into this position here. All right. So that's going to be more knee and flexion, knee and hip flexion dominant. And remember, this is more hip flexion dominant. All right. And when you're doing this, make sure that you're working on, think about what you're tightening up, right? Take that glute, tighten it up, slight bend the knee, and then keep this tight as you go down. And remember those 3 points of contact, right? You don't want to get into this position here going down. Don't sacrifice that. Don't lose those 3 points of contact as you go down. Okay? All right. So that gives us a couple single leg progressions here that we worked on. GHD work, that'll be for another video. That's glute ham developer. Most people don't have one of these at home, so but I did want to mention this. This is a superior device for working on that posterior chain. A lot of different ways you can use it. All right, but for our purposes, we wanted to show you a few things that you probably have at home and definitely most gyms will have. All right, so working on these things right here 2-3 times a week. Everything's going to be about 8 to 12 reps. Slow and controlled, slow tempo, remember that. All right, you're working on stabilizing muscles. Stabilizing muscles are slow twitch muscle fiber muscles. So you have to work at them in a slow tempo. All right. Okay, so for this week, tighten up your rear. That's going to be our tagline for the video, right? So working on that posterior chain. That's all we have for this week, and we'll catch you next week.